Hello and welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery. My name is Pelto, helping you to get your practice to the $1 million mark and beyond in your personal production. So that ends up being about $80,000 in production per month. So I'm going to kind of give you my tips. Today I want to start out talking a little bit about ChatGPT. This is something that's quite popular these days. Many people are using it in their practice. I've recently been kind of discussing with some people. They're saying, oh, you have to use ChatGPT or AI for notes. I still use old-fashioned scribes. I like my scribe. He becomes a friend. We're about the same age, and I just pretty much tell him we're going to retire about the same time. But there are some uses for ChatGPT. I want to share a couple of my favorite uses. Number one is I had to redo my my web page. I added this urgent care web page. Now, I always like to, whenever I change something, I like to not just, I guess one of the problems I made in the past, I used to kind of skim the surface. And I made the urgent care page and I didn't do anything else with it. Now what I try to do is I think of, okay, I made the urgent care page, but what else can I do that would accommodate this urgent care page? What other things can I do that'll even help it grow even more, help get more patients in? So thus far, we made the page. Actually, I had a virtual assistant make the page. I have something through our medical record, which is ModMed and Clara, where they can make an appointment just for urgent care slots. So urgent care is ambiguous of new or established patient because they're usually pretty simple patients, and we want to get them in as soon as possible. So I'm pretty much trying to guarantee 24 to 48 hour appointments, and that's mostly because we have a new fourth doctor that has some opening. So that may change a little bit the way I'm marketing it, but right now that's what we're doing. But with ChatGPT, I wanted to add something to our Google business. So Google My Business, we have these locations, and I wanted to change a little bit of the description. So I had ChatGPT help me to make one that would kind of publicize and help with keywords for our urgent care. So I just asked it, and it made it. So it was pretty easy to do. And I took it and I copied it and pasted it into each of our Google My Business profiles. These are my Google Business profiles. Now we have 10 of them, and you might think, wow, 10's a lot. It is a lot. They're all under my, I have managerial access to them. So we have one for each office, and then for each of the 4 doctors, there's 4. They have one in each location. So we have 4 in Worcester, 4 in Westboro, one for each doctor, the 4 doctors, and then a main Westboro and a main Worcester. And when we send out reviews, we send it specifically to where that doctor is. So if I'm in Worcester one day, it'll ask for reviews from that one. If I'm in Westboro, it'll ask for reviews to the other one. That is part of the way we kind of get more traction within Google, the Google business type of thing, and on the maps. And then, so I did that, and then I also added into each one of those pages you can add the main category would be podiatrist. I think they're called accessory categories or subcategories. Surgeon is one. I added sports medicine clinic, and then I added an urgent care clinic. So I added that in there, and then the keyword search description. So I think I'm hoping that is going to increase even more the people coming in for urgent care appointments in the office. And I think as I was thinking about this, I was reading recently about it's called the unique selling proposition, and I think this whole quickness or getting people in for urgent care, I think that's a pretty nice unique selling proposition because patients want to get in. They want to get things better faster, and I even find that with Shockwave, for example, if patients, they're given the option to come in 6 times over 6 weeks, or they can come in 6 times within 3 weeks, so doing it every 3 days or 72 hours. I'm finding that some patients are choosing that. I think they just want to get the treatments done faster so they can either get it done with or they can kind of get better faster. I don't know if it gets them better actually a little bit. It might be a little bit faster, but I don't think much. But I think people just want to get things done. So I think speed of service, I think, is something that we have to offer. So that's one way I've been using ChatGPT. Another way that I've been using ChatGPT is then now I'm taking, if you notice, each of these podcasts, I used to just call each of the podcasts the $1 Million Minute. And in the description, I just put $1 Million Minute. And, that didn't work too well for SEO because, frankly, I have very few people listening to this. I'm trying to figure out how to get more listeners. So if you listen to this and if you like this, please put a review on it and on wherever you're listening to it. If it's Apple, put a review. I have a few reviews, but I need more. And then more importantly, like, share this with others, because I feel like a lot of people don't know about this podcast. And so what I do now is I take the transcript. So the kind of the workflow is I do this with a handheld mic in my car before work. I do it on my phone in the recording section. So I just take the transcript and I paste it in the ChatGPT, and it gives me like 3 little posts for LinkedIn, and it gives me a description and a title suggestion for the actual podcast. And it can do more too. I just I don't personally want to do that. Eventually I might do that with my virtual assistant, such as like doing a blog post on each one, or like a separate web page for each of the ones with the transcript and things like that. So I'm not specifically doing that yet, but that would be something that would help increase this podcast. So that's another way that I'm using ChatGPT. I'm not usually using it a ton in the clinic yet, but I'm using it for like AdWords. So I had to make some Facebook ads for the urgent care, and so I put it in there. Can you give me some good Facebook ad copy and suggestions for like pictures, right? What could I use? And so it did make some. It has an integration with Canva. I didn't think it was that great, but it has kind of good ideas. So those are some ideas about using AI and ChatGPT in the practice. So let me go now into the day. This is a recording from a Monday. First patient, 12-year-old for flat feet. He was here for an orthotic follow-up. He had a little bit of pain on the medial aspect, and so I heated it up with a heat gun, and I dropped it down, and he was fine. I'm going to see him back in 1 year. Now, this type of thing is very simple for us, but this is something that I think that patients like to see. So I made this into a YouTube short. I'm starting to kind of tell you which ones I make into YouTube shorts, so you get an idea of kind of what my thought is. So I made it into a YouTube short because I think patients like to see behind the scenes, something that's pretty obvious to us, but it's something that's kind of new to them. Next patient was a 35-year-old that had a porokeratoma on the foot, so like an IPK. And I always say my explanation is, this possibly could be a wart, because it could be. Most likely it's like a big deep callus, and I'm going to treat it kind of as a wart, so that way I can get the lesion destruction and office visit. And she also had some issues with her kids, some nail issues. So what I said, would you please just send me a picture? So I offered to do this. This is something I just kind of do to patients. If they have just a quick question, they can text it to me via the office texting message. Next patient was a 55-year-old female. She status post left bunionectomy, and she developed pretty much arthritis in the first MPJ. And I think it was because I tried to shift an Austin a little bit big, because I do not do lapidus. I just don't. That's just something I don't feel comfortable with. I didn't really get as much training in it, and so I'm going to send this patient over to my colleague for kind of a second opinion. I'm afraid that she might need a fusion, but potentially he could do something else for that patient. Next patient was a 75-year-old man. He had bilateral plantar fasciitis, and he had equinus bilaterally. So I started out doing, once again, my dynamic demonstration. I take this ore ball, put it on the back of their leg, roll it around, and then all of a sudden his heel pain reduces. And I think the heel pain in him is mostly due to equinus. So I'm not going to start with everything. I'm going to start out with the night splint, foam rolling, and morning stretch, and he's going to get bilateral night splints. So that was a good thing. And then I got an x-ray, and I'm going to get an ultrasound next time. And so I got meloxicam, so that got me to the level 4 visit. And I'm going to see him back in 4 weeks. If it's not better, then we're going to go to the next step, which is going to be an ultrasound. Next patient was a 66-year-old female, status post metatarsalgia. She had 6 sessions of shockwave. She's doing much better. And she said, oh, by the way, I have these nail issues. Weren't really that bad, but she's feeling better after the shockwave. I'm not going to see her back. Next was a 51-year-old female, right plantar fasciitis, number 5 out of 6 of shockwave. She's already starting to see some improvement. I tend to find if you do 6 sessions, you start to feel better about the 5th to 6th session. It's nice to be present for that. Next was a 36-year-old man. He had a split nail on the 4th digit. So basically, just a split, that goes down the kind of the lateral aspect. I talked about trimming it short. That's the easiest way, putting super glue on it, and then possibly doing a matrixectomy if it continues to bother him. And then he also had a wart on the left fourth metatarsal head. I did Canther down that, and I think he got Aldera as well. And I'm going to see him back in 2 weeks to do it. So when I see warts, I give them the option. You can either see me once a month, but if you want to get better faster, I can see you back every 2 weeks. And he opted to see me every 2 weeks. Once again, I think the patients like these things about speed, right? So they like to get better faster. Next was a 56-year-old man. He had a right sesamoid fracture, status post, 6 EPATs. I did a 7th today at no charge because it was the follow-up in 6 weeks. I looked at his x-ray, and I ordered him a bone stem. He had a gap at that fracture site. I talked about removing it, but he still wasn't interested. So we're going to try to get a bone stem covered, and I'm going to see him back in 2 months. Next was a 59-year-old female, status post, a 2nd met fracture. She's doing fine. I'm not going to see her back. Next was a 59-year-old. She had a bunion. I had a couple of these patients today that came in for bunions, and they did not want surgery. So when they don't want surgery, I do a long spiel. I take off my shoe, take off my sock liner, show them what a sock liner should look like with the space in the front. That's the first thing I do, so I talk about shoes. Second, I talk about orthotics to help if there's like first ray elevatus on the x-ray. And then third, I talk about correct toes. That's what I say. I give them my treatment sheet on bunions, and actually I have a page on my website on bunions, and I send that if they want to learn more. So I did that a couple of times today for some patients that didn't want surgery. Next was a 20-year-old female who had an ingrown toenail. I did an IND. Next was a 56-year-old. That was the morning. This is the afternoon. Next was a 56-year-old that had a fourth toe non-union that's been not healing. It's been about over a year. Still swollen, so I did shockwave number 3 out of 6 with focused only. So when it's a non-union, I tend to do focused only shockwave. Next was an 18-year-old man. He had a granuloma status post-IND. That was recurrent, so I did another IND, took out a little bit more nail. Next was a 37-year-old female for a right carry-flex number 3. So this one had fallen off. Now carry-flex, I probably should stop doing it, but patients really like it, so I'm trying to get my nail tech to do them more. Because it doesn't really reimburse that much. We charge $125 for the first nail and $50 for the other nail, so it's much more, I guess, profitable to do shockwave, but there's not always shockwave to fit in there, so I think it's an okay procedure and patients like it. Next was a 72-year-old female for a right porokeratoma, or IPK. Got x-ray, did the lesion destruction as we talked about before. Next was a 68-year-old man for PTTD with tendinitis on the right, number 5 out of 6 for shockwave, and he is already starting to feel better. Next was a 38-year-old female, bilateral EPAT for the heel, number 2 out of 6, starting to feel a little bit better. This is actually my kid's taekwondo instructor who had an Achilles rupture. Next is Cutenza number 3 for a gentleman that was 77. He has a little bit less shooting pain, and he was wondering if he should stop. And so what I'm saying currently for Cutenza, I recommend doing 4 sessions, and if they're seeing improvement, they can continue. But if they're unsure, they can stop, and then if the pain comes back or the symptoms come back, they can come back. But the way I understand Cutenza is it's like chili peppers, and it kind of burns and hyperstimulates the nerves, so the nerves will come back after about 3 months, but he wasn't wanting to continue forever. And also, this guy, he actually came from a local podiatrist that was doing the nail care and came for me for Cutenza, probably, I don't know, from an ad he saw. I started the Cutenza, and I also reached out to this other doctor, and I said, hey, you guys do Cutenza, do you want to take this over? I think it would be better for you because you're doing the nail care there as well. I don't do a ton of Cutenza, but I know some people do, and it's reimbursed pretty decently for your time for applying it. Next was a bunion with a tailor's bunion. I had that shoe conversation that I talked about before. Next was another bunion discussion. Talked about the shoes again. Both of those got x-rays. Next was a 57-year-old female for number 4 out of 6 for Achilles tendinitis. Next was a 5-year-old little boy with a right heel wart, and we talked about Cantharin, and we gave Aldera, and we got the office visit from that. And the last was a 55-year-old for a right Achilles. They after my Pelto special, which is the night splint foam rolling and morning stretch and the other things, about 50% better. So I think it's mostly due to the equinus or the tightness. And so I'm going to see her back in 8 weeks, and if it's not better, we'll do the ultrasound. And then I talk to her about either physical therapy or shockwave. So that is the day. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm putting together a challenge. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to podiatrypracticemastery.com/challenge. It's a kind of helping you to challenge to get you to the $80,000 mark per month in production. I know a lot of you may be there, but a lot aren't. And if you're in the 50, 60 realm, this would be a perfect thing for you. I think you can add a good 10 to 15, maybe even $20,000 per month in your production, just by kind of implementing the things that we're going to be talking about in the practice, in your personal practice. Okay. Once again, hope you enjoyed this. We'll talk to you tomorrow.